Hello, one and all. I just got back from seeing Shizume no Tojimaro, and I absolutely freaking love the movie. I even got a new shirt to wear to it. Oh, I love this shirt. Love Little Dajin. Love the movie. But things get a bit interesting when I try to compare it to Your Name and Weathering with You, and it actually kind of ranks near the bottom for me. I mean, in terms of aesthetics, it's not an ugly movie, but Your Name had those beautiful shots of the meteor, and Weathering with You, just holy mother of God above. The amount of work and effort they put into animating every single little raindrop was just absolutely breathtaking. And this movie just didn't really have that same, aesthetic hook. It had the worm. They clearly put a lot of effort into animating the worm, but it's not what I would call beautiful. It was ugly. It was overwhelmingly ugly, and very intentionally so. I mean, this thing was designed to be this horrific, horrifying monstrosity that was otherworldly and just hideous, absolutely hideous. And I think it accomplished that very well, for the most part. Honestly, I was not a big fan of the form it took when it was covering all of Tokyo, but the form it took during that big final battle, that was spectacular. That was very well animated, and I love that. But anyway, though, then in terms of storytelling, which of the movies do I find the most moving? Again, it would not be Shizume. I mean, admittedly, I teared up a little bit at the end during, her conversation with her past self, but I mean, just Your Name, Weathering with You, those really got me bawling. And Shizume just didn't. And yet, despite all of that, I feel like this is the movie I'd be most likely to go back and rewatch, because I feel like it handles pacing a lot better than the first two did. I mean, Your Name, Weathering with You, they both did basically the same thing. The first half of the movie was some sort of, supernatural slice of life. Oh, we're swapping bodies. Oh, we're controlling the weather. Oh, isn't this fun? Ah! And then took a very sharp turn, at the halfway mark, where it's like, oh, no. Things are actually terrifying and horrifying here. Whereas in Shizume, it was horrifying from the very beginning. Like, literally 5 minutes in the movie, she's facing off against the worm, trying to seal it, trying to stop a second massive earthquake, and it's like, oh, okay, this is the, story moving forward. And from there, she went from town to town, helping people, and, closing doors. And this is where I think the movie just really shined for me, because obviously, like, this whole thing is a metaphor for closure itself, something Shizume never got over after the death of her mother, and I really liked that when each town she went to, she met someone who had a connection to the abandoned place. First place she went to, there was the girl with the oranges, and she's like, oh yeah, that used to be my old middle school until it burned down or whatever. And the second place she went to, when she was, being helped by the woman with the kids who ran the hostess bar, she's like, oh yeah, that old amusement park, I used to go to it all the time. It really established a solid connection between these abandoned places and the people that used to live there. Even more so when she actually went to, close the door, get the whole, we call upon the gods, this place not belong to us, all that. And we got to see the place, how it looked in its prime. That was beautiful. That was so, so beautiful. And I really did love that. Oh, but then speaking of closure, we had the big twist at the end, because for the entirety of the movie, it seemed fairly obvious that, young Shizume, when she was lost in the land of the dead, she ran into Sato. He was able to save her. He was able to give her back her mother's chair and guide her out of, the land of the dead, the ever after, whatever it was called. But then it's, as she's going out through the movie, she's like, oh, I'm guessing I'm going to take Sato's shoes. Oh, I'm guessing I'm going to take Sato's jacket. Oh, I guess I'm going to stop, tying my hair up in a bun. And so she ended up, looking like Sato. She ended up, copying somewhat inadvertently his silhouette. So she was able to give her own past self closure on the loss of her mother, which, interesting. Very, very interesting. I love that twist, but also felt like it kind of, messed up the relationship between Shizume and Sato. Because when she first saw him, she's like, I know him. I've seen him before. Where have I seen him? And it's like, oh, this is important. This was someone who meant something to her at some point in the past. But then it, just didn't. I mean, yeah, she still saw Sota when she was passing through the door and waving to her, future self, but there's not that real solid connection right there, and it kind of makes things a little bit wonky, if you ask me. I mean, I almost feel like maybe there's something that was changed last minute, like it was always supposed to be Sota who guided her, helped her find closure, but then, someone said, hey, what if she helped herself find closure? And everyone's like, oh, and they just went with that without realizing it kind of messes up their relationship. And that relationship is already kind of messed up. Seriously, this girl, after a week of knowing this dude, is like, I can't live in a world without him. Oh, that's thirsty. That is really overwhelmingly thirsty. Though, at the same time, she did say, yeah, I don't really care if I live or die, like, long before that, so, maybe she just wasn't really valuing her own life at all. She clearly had a lot of problems. And it was really interesting that we went into this movie without actually knowing anything about her. I mean, the action started without really any insight into her own personal life, and that is, like I said, very different from what we've seen from the past movies. Your Name, Weathering with You, we got to know the characters before things went fully insane. And I'm not sure if I like this method more because I like the pace that I kept up throughout the entire movie, but I'm not sure if I like it from a storytelling perspective. Very interesting. But anyway, though, speaking of things I don't fully understand, we have good old Daijin. Seriously, what is this cat's deal? I'm confused. I am very, very much confused about a lot of this. I mean, I get he was the Keystone. He didn't want to be. He wanted to be free. He wanted to go out and explore the world and have fun after being bound for centuries, millennia, whatever. But then, I mean, there's still a debate in my mind about whether or not he was actually causing the doors to open or if he was intentionally letting himself be captured on camera to guide Chizume and Sota to the door so that they could close them, so they could keep people from getting killed. I mean, he seemed completely and utterly indifferent when the massive worm was about to crush all of Tokyo, but at the same time, he made sure that Shizume and Sota were there to seal it up. And then at the end of the movie, Shizume said, hey, Daijin, have you been guiding us to this door this entire time? Have you been guiding me back home? So, yeah, that's interesting. And also, just, what's the deal with this cat's abilities and powers? I mean, I get he's a god, he was easily able to turn Sota into a chair, but then, everybody who saw the cat instantly thought, hey, that cat's name is Daijin, and they were seemingly right about it given the other cat's name was something like Daijin, like Super Daijin, something like that, I can't remember. And, also, I might be fully misremembering things, but I am fairly certain that when they were at the Hostess bar, the people were treating the cat like an actual person, like they saw him as a human being, which was weird, very, very weird, and I'm hoping I'm remembering that incorrectly. But anyway, though, then we also have the black cat. Another weird thing is that when the black cat transformed and got big, he became white, whereas when Daijin transformed to guard Chizume every time she fell, he became black. So definitely some sort of weird yin-yang thing going on there. But either way, the black cat, when he appeared, he made Shizume's aunt and her say a bunch of horrifically mean things to one another. And that was weird. I mean, I assumed that meant the black cat was evil and he was, trying to hurt them. But then the cat just, kind of traveled with them for the rest of the movie. And it was never really brought up again, and I was very confused. I've looked online, and the best explanation I've seen is someone arguing the black cat represents, negative emotions, and it was actually trying to force these emotions out. These are things that, the aunt and Shizume had both wanted to say at one point or another, but they didn't because, that would have been awful, that would be mean, that would have hurt the other person's feelings, but it was still something that needed to be said, something that needed to be expressed so they could, move forward, move on, and just, get a healthier, better relationship as a result of it. Maybe, I don't know. If anyone has a better explanation, please let me know down below. I'm very excited to read the novel. I think I looked up before, and it's coming out in June or July, something like that. I mean, the novel for Weathering With You was definitely revealing. I mean, this is a big thing that, this director, whatever, seems to do with a lot of his characters is not explain things. Just leave things incredibly, overwhelmingly vague. Like, for example, in Weathering with You, there's a big thing like, okay, why is this dude running away? Why is he going over to Tokyo? And the explanation that's given, there's no explanation given, there really isn't. But in the book, it is heavily implied that his father is abusive, so that's why he ran away, I guess. That is, like, seriously only implied in, like, one line where he's like, he biked as hard as he could, trying to forget the pain in his cheek, something like that, which I read as his father being abusive. It might be wrong, that might not be what the author intended, but that is the only explanation we were given, and it was only given in the book. So hopefully this book here will help clarify some of those details. Very interesting. Oh, but speaking of Weathering with You, as far as I can tell, there were no cameos in this movie. I mean, Weathering with You brought back both protagonists of Your Name in two separate scenes, and yet, unless I was just fully missing it, there were no return characters in this movie. And, also just given the ending of Weathering with You, I feel like that would affect, the world in this movie, timeline-wise, though I might need to double-check that. Very interesting. Also, I cannot forget to mention the freaking bro. Seriously, Sota's friend, his colleague. This man deserves a round of applause, and the internet seems to agree that this dude is freaking gold. Out of nowhere, he agreed to drive this girl 8 hours one way, 16 hours both way, to go find his friend because she said that he was in this place that he would have no reason to be. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love it. And like I said before, in the previous movies from this creator, the first half were like these slice of life, supernatural, fun comedy things. But in this movie, that, slice of life part was put at the end, or, close to the end, as we just had this, like, really, really long road trip with him singing along to the radio the entire time. Oh, I love that. Especially because he was singing songs in Japanese, and I saw the movie in English, and his Japanese was pretty freaking good, I gotta say. Man, that was weird. That was so, so weird, but I loved it. Oh, and I'm also seeing a lot of people online who are saying the aunt should date the friend, which, I mean, that would be something, and just be, a little bit, a lot of bit creepy, considering it seems to be implied that either now or in the future that Shizume and Sota will end up dating. So, then Shizume and her aunt would basically be dating dudes who are the same age. Oh, that'd be weird. That'd be very, very weird. And there was that dude who was like just so into the aunt, seriously. I mean, he's like, so freaking thirsty. Like, I want this woman. I want this woman. I will do anything for her. I will go with her all the way to Tokyo, all the way to the other side of Japan. Though his obsession with her was even weirder because, when she was possessed by a black cat and she was going on this whole long rant, like, no guy would want to date a girl with this much baggage. It's like, yeah, there's a guy who would very much want to date you. Are you just, that freaking dense? I think so. Honestly, I think so. Love it. Absolutely love it. But anyway, though, please let me think down below what you think of this movie. How does it compare to the other two? I'm seeing a lot of differing opinions. I'm seeing people saying, oh, this is the best movie in the trilogy. Others saying, it's the worst movie in the trilogy. I feel very much mixed between. I mean, like I said, I prefer the aesthetics of Weathering with You and Your Name, but I'm more likely to go back and rewatch this one because I like the flow from event to event. I like the storytelling. I think it's better than the previous movies in that regard. Interesting. And what's your guess for whatever the freak this creator is going to make next? I mean, it seems to certainly have a theme going. First movie was about, meteor. Second movie was about flooding. Third movie is actually kind of it's about earthquakes, but also specifically about the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, which killed, Shizume's mother. So, interesting. So then, what's really left? AI apocalypse, wildfires. Does Japan have big wildfires? I'm not actually sure about that one. Interesting. Anyway, though, please leave anything down below, and until next time, peace!